Hello. So, a little reflection today that may be very obvious to most people, although I think it's only really just occurred to me, at least has come into my mind. So, I thought I would mention this. And I was thinking very much about why a lot of people feel very uneasy being around people who are trans or indeed non binary or represent the other in their view. Um, Very often that's been associated with fear of difference, or is obviously been very influenced by, for many, by religious views and upbringing and so on about how we should be, and therefore this unease about how we relate to people that are different, that kind of approach from the outside, as it were. And as I understand it, I think I've mentioned before, I believe that, and anthropologists tell us that all this started, or this may well have all started, when we were hunter-gatherer societies and tribes, villages needed to protect themselves and were very wary of strangers, people that looked or appeared different coming into their midst, potential spies perhaps looking to invade. However, I think there's something else that might be going on, and that is that subconsciously, at least, we do box people in the main, I think, in the way we relate to them. And there is something very subtle in the dynamic between knowing someone as a man or a woman in a relationship in pretty much any context, in a social context, in a work context, in other contexts as well. May not be very obvious, but is often there. Sometimes it seems very transparent. I was looking back on my own working experience, and in the environments I worked in, I was not actually very often conscious of um, a sexual or gender dynamic at play. Certainly, there were men and women who were ready to come forward and be assertive and take the lead, and all the sort of roles we might associate with one or the other gender, perhaps, really didn't seem to come too much into discussion. But perhaps there was this very subtle dynamic going on, this kind of way of relating, the way we relate to each individual, has some bearing um, because of who they are, who we perceive them to be as a man or a woman. When we come to relate to someone who is trans, who doesn't quite fit into that box, whose energy, let's call it, we can't necessarily classify as masculine or feminine, perhaps there's something a little uneasy about that. Again, subconsciously, that's going on for a lot of people, not quite knowing how to relate to this person, not being able to put them into a box. I don't know if this is has any validity at all, this particular idea. It's not one I hold strongly to or necessarily believe would apply in every circumstance. It's just something that I think may be going on subconsciously for a lot of people a lot of the time. It may well be another part of this complex set of reasons why some people perhaps have some reservations, have some unease when they are first getting to know a trans person. For me, as someone that very recently really has come out and realized that actually I need my activism, as it were, needs to start at home. People that know me, if they know I'm trans as well, will hopefully already know me well enough to know that I'm not an axe murderer or a monster, that I'm someone that um, has pretty normal views in the main and is reasonable to be around. Uh, perhaps, perhaps there is an opportunity with people we know, for those of us like me who are willing to come out as trans, to challenge this perception, if it exists. Um, Now, a little wild, offbeat idea that comes to me on the back of this is actually looking at this question from the point of view of someone who is trans. And I was thinking, if it is the case, and this is a huge assumption, that um, binary women predominantly embody the feminine energies, whatever they are, the archetypes, the qualities, if we look at this in like a yin and yang symbol terms, we might be thinking of the black, for example, within the yin yang. And if the converse is true for men, primarily embodying the masculine, then perhaps if those of us who are trans embody both, where the black and the white come together in the yin yang symbol and are meant to complement each other and be in a kind of dance together, maybe this also causes a bit of confusion. The kind of energies that we are, the air about us, if you like, is something that is a little bit difficult to complement, put it like that, with something that's binary. And I wonder, and this is even going further, this is really stretching it, considering the fact that there are quite a high percentage of trans people, I should say autistic people, who identify as trans, much higher percentages than within the general population. Whether there's something here about understanding as well, the kind of, since autism involves a need to, a difficulty very often in sort of understanding how another person thinks. I wonder if this is partly down to what might be going on when we are growing up, developing and interacting, playing this dance. If we're kind of a little bit outside the dance, we find it difficult, or we're not invited, as it were, we're not as easily engaged in this complementing and really interacting and understanding one side and the other. That's probably going to be a very controversial view. I don't have a strong view on this at all. I just offer it as a possible seed of something that might have something in it. I really wouldn't go too far in trying to justify that. And I'm sure there are many other explanations and factors that come into it as well. But anyway, a little bit of a rambling on this idea of what may be going on at a subconscious level that might not be so obvious in terms of how we interact, either as trans people with others, or indeed others with trans people. Big generalizations. And of course, this is all going to depend on our personalities, our situations, the stage we've reached in life, our life experiences, and a whole host of other things, I'm sure.